Yahuwah's justice vindicated. Among the men and various teachings dispensed by Elijah to his friends, there are none so important as his theodicy. The teachers vindicating Elohim's justice in the administration of earthly affairs. He used many opportunities to demonstrate it by precept and example. Once he granted his friend Rabbi Joshua ben Levi the fulfillment of any wish he might express, and all the rabbi asked for was that he might be permitted to accompany Elijah on his wanderings through the world. Elijah was prepared to gratify this wish. He only imposed the condition that, however odd the rabbi might think Elijah's action, he was not to ask any explanation of them. If ever he demanded why, they would have to part company. So Elijah and the rabbi fared forth together, and they journeyed on until they reached the house of a poor man, whose only earthly possession was a cow. The man and his wife were thoroughly good-hearted people, and they received two wanderers with a cordial welcome. They invited the strangers into their house, set before them food and drink of the best they had, and made up a comfortable couch for them for the night. When Elijah and the rabbi were ready to continue their journey on the following day, Elijah prayed that the cow belonging to his host might die. Before they left the house, the animal had expired. Rabbi Joshua was so shocked by the misfortune that had befallen the good people, he almost lost consciousness. He thought, is that to be the poor man's reward for all his kind services to us? And he could not refrain from putting the question to Elijah. But Elijah reminded him of the condition imposed and accepted at the beginning of their journey, and they traveled on, the rabbi's curiosity unappeased. That night they reached the house of a wealthy man who did not pay his guests the courtesy of looking them in the face. Though they passed the night under his roof, he did not offer them food or drink. This rich man was desirous of having a wall repaired that had tumbled down. There was no need for him to take any steps to have it rebuilt, for when Elijah left the house, he prayed that the wall might erect itself, and lo, it stood upright. Rabbi Joshua was greatly amazed, but true to his promise, he suppressed the question that rose to his lips. So the two traveled on again until they reached an ornate synagogue, the seats in which were made of silver and gold. But the worshippers did not correspond in character to the magnificence of the building. For when it came to the point of satisfying the needs of the way-worn pilgrims, one of those present said, "There is not dearth of water and bread, and the strange travelers can stay in the synagogue, whether these refreshments can be brought to them." Early the next morning, when they were departing, Elijah wished those present in the synagogue in which they had lodged that Elohim might raise them all to be heads. Rabbi Joshua again had to exercise great self-restraint and not put into words a question that troubled him profoundly. In the next town they were received with great affability and served abundantly with all their tired bodies craved. On these kind hosts of Elijah, on leaving, bestowed the wish that Elohim might give them but a single head. Now the rabbi could not hold himself in check any longer, and he demanded an explanation of Elijah's freakish actions. Elijah consented to clear up his conduct for Joshua before they separated from each other. He spoke as follows: The poor man's cow was killed because he knew that on the same day the death of his wife had been ordained in heaven. And I pray to Elohim to accept the loss of the poor man's property as a substitute for the poor man's wife. As for the rich man, there was a treasure hidden under the dilapidated wall, and if he had rebuilt it, he would have found the gold. Hence I set up the wall miraculously in order to deprive the congregation of the valuable find. I wish that the inhospitable people assembled in the synagogue might have many heads, for a place of numerous leaders is bound to be ruined by reason of multiplicity of counsel and disputes. To the inhabitants of our last sojourning place, on the other hand, I wished a single head, for the one to guide a town, successful attend all its undertakings. Know then that if thou seest an evildoer prosper, it is not always unto his advantage. And if a righteous man suffers need and distress, think not Elohim is unjust. After these words, Elijah and Rabbi Joshua separated from each other, and each went his own way. How difficult it is to form a true judgment with nothing but external appearances as guide. Elijah proved to Rabbi Baroka. They were once wailing in a crowded street, and the rabbi requested Elijah to point out any of the throng destined to occupy places in paradise. Elijah answered that there was none, only to contradict himself and point to a passerby the very next minute. His appearance was such that in him least of all the rabbi would have suspected a pious man. His garb did not even indicate that he was a Jew. Later, Rabbi Baroka discovered by questioning him that he was a prison guard. In the fulfillment of his duties as such, he was particularly careful that the virtue of chastity should not be violated in the prison, in which both men and women were kept in detention. Also, his position often brought him into relation with the heathen authorities, and so he was enabled to keep the Jews informed of the disposition entertained toward them by the powers that be. The rabbi was thus taught that no station in life precluded its occupant from doing good and acting nobly. Another time Elijah designated 2 men to whom a great future was assigned in paradise. Yet these men were nothing more than clowns. They made it their purpose in life to dispel discontent and sorrow by their jokes and their cheery humor, and they used the opportunities granted by their profession to adjust the difficulties and quarrels that disturb the harmony of people living in close contact with each other.